Fantastic.
All
right.
right.
Nil. I think second half, Wales got into the game just a bit more than they did in the first half. Not quite as dominant. But I think some of the players did take a step up. I think Gio Reyna had a better second half. He was getting more involved in the final third. I was really impressed with Yuli Yanez when he came off the bench. Quick shot. So I think still promising, but not where you want to be.
I think we definitely slowed up in the second half, and I don't know if that's credit to Wales or on us. Maybe fitness-wise, we're just not up to pace yet. But second half was boring. I'll say that much. The first half we definitely looked more lively, but there was one constant throughout the whole 90 was Weston McKennie. He dominated every single second. Like I said when we talked earlier, he was on every blade of grass, and he continued doing exactly that through the second half. It was kind of frustrating seeing such a good performance from Weston McKennie, because he was doing almost everything where we should have had players like Gio or Conrad stepping in. So, I mean, Weston was playing on the wings. He was playing down deep, and he was almost doing everyone's job for them.
Yeah, and I think, too, at some points, you know, if there's one thing to say bad about him, was he was almost doing too much. Like, at times he was trying to be the right winger and a central midfielder and a left winger all at the same time, and it was almost just a bit too much for him. Serginho Dest is just filthy. That one little the snake Meg flick.
Oh my gosh!
I mean, jeez.
Yeah, I would go as far to say as it was just so exciting to watch these two play. McKennie, for sure, he was doing a bit much at times, but McKennie and Dest, you could see glimpses of just world-class quality from them, and it's exciting to see. Obviously, they may not be at that point yet, but to talk about United States internationals on the world-class stage is exciting, and we're seeing glimpses of it this early.
Yeah, and what you could say is the difference between, you know, the U.S. men's national team 1 year ago and the U.S. men's national team today is the guys playing at the top of the leagues and playing in the best teams in the world. We were talking about Serginho Dest at Barcelona, and we're talking about Weston McKennie over at Juventus. And those two players were the best players, and you can tell that day in and day out that they're training and playing with the best players in the world. I mean, we're talking about players that are playing with two of the greatest players to ever play the game in Messi and Ronaldo, and they were the two best players on the pitch today for me, and that's going to be reflected when we go through our player ratings. So why don't we just get right into that? Start with the goalkeeper. For me, Zach Steffen, 7 out of 10. Two really good saves. The one off Daniel James right at the beginning of the second half, I think, was fantastic. Robinson got caught sleeping there, but other than that, didn't really have too much to do.
Yeah, I'm going to go similar to you. I'm going to give him a 6 out of 10, just because nothing against him, but I think he just wasn't involved as much as we needed him, which is definitely a good thing for a goalkeeper. Keep that rating low because we don't want him to be involved. He had some good distribution out of the back, especially in the first half when we were kind of trying to build more deep. But second half, those two big saves are the talking points for sure, and that's exactly what you need out of a goalkeeper when you're dominating a game, is the fact that he's still in it, he's still mentally there, and he's ready to come up big. So 6 out of 10, which is not a bad thing at all for him.
Yeah, and then moving on to Serginho Dest, like I said, one of the best players on the field today. I'm giving him an 8 out of 10, constantly involved in the attack. Didn't really have too much to do defensively. They were pretty much shut down along that right wing, and he was constantly just making plays, taking on defenders, creating opportunities, and I feel like we just needed a number 9 in there instead of a false 9 with Serge, with the amount of, you know, times that he was creating space for himself to whip in balls into the box. It just feels like we didn't really have the guy in the box when we needed him there. So still 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with you on that 8 out of 10. He was probably, you called it during our show yesterday, and he was our brightest player. I was hoping to see more out of Gio, but Serginho was definitely our brightest guy when it came to creativity. So he definitely warrants an 8 out of 10, I'd say.
Yeah, center backs Matt Miazga and John Brooks, I'm going to give them both 7 out of 10s. Defensively today, we were both we were solid defensively. Like we said, there was only 2 real chances for Wales. I think Brooks was probably a little bit better than Miazga on this one. I think his ball distribution was simply just a little bit better than the rest of the guys out there. I think a couple of the balls he played, particularly to Anthony Robinson in the first half, were solid.
I'm going to go, maybe I'm going to sound more of the pessimist in this, but I'm going to say they're both, I'm going to give Miazga a 5, Brooks a 6, just because they weren't bad, but they just weren't, they weren't as necessarily special either. I mean, they both did their job. Maybe they could have done things better, but I think what the difference was between John Brooks's was his vision and his passing range that we saw a couple of times. But at the same time, I think we could see more out of them, but not necessarily a bad job from either.
Yeah, the one problem I did see with Miazga is I don't think he was as aerially dominant as Brooks was. Part of that has to be down to the fact that their striker was 6'5" for Wales, so that doesn't really help in terms of knocking the balls down. I think we could have been a little bit better in our approach and defensive.
Interestingly enough, though, whenever Moore was on a corner, at least a couple of occasions, I saw Sebastian Lletget man marking him, which is odd. I mean, Lletget is only, I think, closer to 6 foot, and Moore was 6'5". So I would have liked to see a better aerial duel between him and John Brooks at least, but it was interesting to see Lletget paired up against Moore. So what about your?
And I gave him a 6 out of 10. I think he was a little bit better in the second half as opposed to the first half, especially in the attacking side of the game. But in the first half, I think a couple times he got caught sleeping defensively. That one chance for Daniel James, I believe it was his fault. He was caught a little bit too high up in possession, and when we lost possession of the ball, they were to slide it in behind him. But there were a couple times where he was able to wiggle his way through a couple defenders and create opportunities in attack.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. What did you give him, a 6? You said?
Yeah, I gave him a 6.
Yeah, I think mine was also. I think I gave him a 5, just because the first half, especially, he had a few defensive areas where he was just looking sloppy, and then that beginning of the half definitely was the telling point that he still has his issues. He's not all sorted out, and he gave away a good opportunity for Wales. He did not have a bad game though at all.
Going off right now.
there's
moving on to the guys that we really want to talk about. Weston McKennie, Tyler Adams, and Yunus Musa. I gave Adams and Musa 7s, and then McKennie an 8. I think that was where we were best, especially in the first half. The three of them, honestly, they just complement each other so well. It's exciting to see. Hopefully Musa does, in fact, end up choosing the U.S. This game wasn't binding by any means, but it is good to have him in camp. And, I mean, the dynamics between them, their tenacity, their ability to be all over the pitch was just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I'm going to match your exact ratings there. That was spot on. I think that that midfield combination, whether we see Musa switch out for, I don't know, either Lletget or, who knows what the third option will be. But I love this look of that midfield. So I think they work together very well. And if we have Pulisic and Reina performing at their top gear in the future, that's going to be all the creativity we need to support that strong core.
Yeah, and we were talking about Weston McKennie being the best player on the pitch. I feel like he was also the leader. A lot of the talk surrounding the national team so far in the last couple of weeks has been, Tyler Adams, he's the next captain, he's the leader on the pitch. And, I feel like that's, something that's going to be key. And I think that's good to have multiple leaders in the squad. But today, I think it was clear that Weston McKennie was the best player. And you can even see how good of in his press conferences, and he's almost taking up that mantle for them. He talked about how, we want to show Musa that we want him here with the U.S., but he also has to prove to us that he's good enough to play for the U.S. national team. It's great that you have England and Nigeria and Ghana all trying to come up, and even Italy trying to get you to play for the national teams. But, you got to show that you're good enough to play for the U.S. We want you, but you got to prove it still.
Mm-hmm. He for such a younger guy, he's showing such strong leadership qualities, and it's exciting to see. I know I talked to you earlier about Stefan and Pulisic stepping up as leaders, even Adams, but tonight we saw one man in charge of the field at all times. And whether or not it was a good thing because he was getting too much involved. It was great to see him taking charge and gearing his team on.
Yeah, absolutely. And going on to Yunus Musa is absolutely fantastic. I mean, he just how quickly he's playing balls, gets the ball, 1-2 touches, moving on. And I think that's one of the biggest keys for us, because in the past we've had players that just try to dilly-dally on the ball. I think that's a big problem with Darlington Nagbe in the past, is he get the ball and he try to do too much with it, and we lose the ball in possession against a team like Mexico that presses high up the field, and next thing you know, we're under pressure with our defense.
Yeah, and the thing with Musa too is he's great with the ball at his feet. There's a couple of instances when he was able to pull the ball out of pressure and then just kind of take the tempo down a second. He with the ball at his feet, he was able to pull it out and then look for options, find the best play possible. So I really like to see that, especially from a kid so young. He's got quality.
Absolutely. And then one of the things that stood out to me, especially in the second half, is that he's comfortable with both feet. That's something you don't necessarily see from wingers, especially at a young age, that they're able to, play the ball first touch and passing so confidently and comfortably with both feet. A lot of times they just try and, move around, and, they can almost handcuff themselves and how and what they're able to do on the ball and in play. And I feel like that's just another asset of his game that's going to continue to grow. And I really, really hope that we're able to lock him down. All right, we're going to move on to the front three that we started.
Front three, let's hear it.
For Conrad, I gave him a 6 out of 10. I feel like he was a little bit better in the second half. He obviously had that really one chance in the first half that he didn't necessarily take advantage of, kind of skied it a bit. But I feel like he was lively. It's just that we didn't necessarily get him the ball in positions at the right time. The timing just wasn't there between the midfield and Conrad today.
Yeah, I'm going to give Conrad a 6 out of 10 as well, which is the best rating out of the front three, if I'm being honest. I'm giving Gio and Leggett both a 5. They're just lack of involvement and lack of getting into play. It was a rough game for both of them. I think Leggett playing out of position, his typical position, didn't work well with him. Obviously I'm a biased LA Galaxy fan. I love the guy, but I just don't think that was his best display of his quality. And Reyna, we all know his quality for sure too, but we didn't see too much of that, at least a little bit in the second half, but obviously wasn't enough. We're sitting here at 0-0. So them two are going to both get a 5, but I agree with you with the 6 on Conrad.
See, I gave Gio a 6 and I gave Sebastian a 5. Leggett just didn't have his day today. He wasn't really involved. I just feel like he was playing out of position. I would have liked to have seen us go with maybe a João Kini now that we know he wasn't injured. Even a Tim Weah up front. I feel like we just kind of made the subs a little bit too little too late. Gio Reyna, I gave him a 6. The problem with that was he just didn't have his best game. We know how good of a player is. We see his quality week in and week out for Borussia Dortmund. And today he just didn't have his best day. And, we can't expect them to have their best days on their debuts. It happens sometimes, but other times it just doesn't. And like I said, I think Julianez was the best player off the bench. That nice little, shot that he had just outside the 18 where he just gets the ball and immediately shoots. I like the confidence from a young player doing that.
Yeah, it's good to see a player immediately come off the bench and want to affect the game. Because young guys like this, it seems like everyone in this team is hungry. You also look at that picture, the starting 11 right before the game. You have Musa, cheesing himself. If you look at the starting 11 picture, he looks so happy, and I love to see that energy coming from these young players. Is that they're either starting or coming off the bench, ready to play, ready to slap the ball in the back of the net. This team is hungry. Yeah.
And then a guy who was nice to see was Tim Weah. We have not seen him in a long time, playing for the national team, or, he's been injured a lot. He's been in and out of the team for Lille. And the one where he ran down the wing and was able to save the ball, I feel like that was a really good, good thing to see him get his legs warm. And I really hope that he's going to get the start. I think it's clear that based off the team today that I could definitely see a world where Sebastian Soto probably gets the nod as the striker on Monday, and then Tim Weah gets the same.
I think that's exactly why we didn't see Soto today, is because he's for me, I don't have any doubt that he'll be starting for us against Panama. He's a player that Greg is pulling into this camp because we want to have him for our future. So it's important that he does get the minutes. So I think undoubtedly he's going to be in that starting 11. But to see Musa and play not Musa, Weah play a little bit. I'm not sure if he'll start, or if I'm no doubt he'll get minutes, but I don't know if it's a case of his fitness or what. But what we did see from him was his quality, his pace. It was very little glimpses here and there, but pace. He got that one ball like you were talking about. It was fun to see him on the field again for us.
Yeah, we didn't get to see much of Nicholas Jalkini. Didn't really get into the match. Only had about 10 minutes on the field. Same with Odowosi. And my biggest thing from Odowosi, the young Wolves midfielder, he is a big presence on the field. He can move the ball. He had a couple really nice passes. However, that he's going to be a presence for this team going forward just because of how big and powerful that he is when he's on the ball.
Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on our fullbacks for today? After we saw Cannon come in, do you think that's going to change anything?
I think Serge is definitely the number one guy. I think it's clear that there's him and then everybody else. I think he may at this point has distanced himself from a guy like even what's it called? What's his name? DeAndre Yedlin. I think even best I'd play him on the right. He's just so much. He has quality and a talent and can do things that nobody else can do in our team.
Yeah. For me, I totally agree with that. I want to see him maybe on the left against Panama. See what happens if we start Reggie Cannon. Because obviously Robinson wasn't great today. He had some great moments in attack. He also had some really bad moments in defense. So I want to see what if we're at all brighter if we have Cannon and Dest. And the thing is that we have those options. So it's good. It's good if we take the time to test them out now. But hopefully that's what we see out of Greg in the lineup on Monday.
And I think that's something to do. And where do you see the improvement or even lack thereof improvement? How do you see us playing on Monday as opposed to today?
I was wondering this during the game actually, because I think it all comes down to the midfield that we start Monday. Obviously McKennie and Adams are going to be tired. They ran their butts off all game and they're going to be tired. So I don't know if they're both going to get the start together or I would hope so, but I think that's going to be really telling onto how we perform on Monday, because if our core players are there, we could be looking at a lot of the same today, and hopefully we could even grab a goal.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be even more so than this game, is Panama's a CONCACAF opponent. That's a team that we're going to be seeing all the time. And, oh boy, this can be a preview for what we're going to see in the Nations League and World Cup qualifying, because let's just think about this. Panama got to the World Cup last time because of our failure in Trinidad last go-around. And I think we're going to see a motivated team, especially from guys like Weston McKennie and Tyler Adams, that want to prove, hey, we're better than Panama. They may have been at that World Cup, but damn, we're going to show that we are better than them. They are not on our level, and our talent and ability is just on a different level of class.
Mm-hmm. I think today was a statement in its own if we were able to beat Wales, a big European, British soccer playing nation. But that's going to be especially on Monday, if we're able to beat or stand our ground or conquer.
I was trying to hold back the laughter here in this one. Yeah, so make sure to go check out our YouTube channel, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Did I cover it all, Ryan? I'm pretty sure we're on everything.
There's some, yeah, I think Breaker, Radio, I don't know, Pocket Casts, all the stuff like that. Wherever you watch your podcast, it's probably up on there. But make sure to catch up with our last 3 episodes now. We have our game preview for this episode, and then we'll probably be coming out for halftime against Panama, and then again for the full-time whistle recap against the game against Panama on Monday. So stay tuned for that. And then also look out for our fall camp review, or after everything wraps up, we're going to review both of the games, talk about what we all learned and what we're looking forward to. So stick around for that, probably coming around late next week, and then see you for the game on Monday. Peace.